There has never been a better time to self-publish a book than 2026, and in this video, I'm going to talk about why. There was a recent survey done on 1,000 people in the US, and those people were asked questions about their writing goals and their reading habits, and what the survey found is that the stigma around self-publishing is way smaller than it used to be, and it has never been easier than it is today to build direct connections to your readers. So in this video, I'm going to share with you all the results of this survey and explain to you why this is such a good year to self-publish. So many of the old publishing strategies are still applicable today, but there are new things to bear in mind given the current publishing landscape. But quickly before we get into the data, this survey was conducted by 99 Designs by Vista, and they are also sponsoring today's video. 99 Designs is a global graphic design company that connects you with freelance designers all across the world. I found my book cover designer through 99 Designs, and I personally use them to design my own book covers. I redesigned They Stay's cover fairly recently, and I found my cover designer through 99 Designs. She designed this for me. She did a fantastic job. She is unbelievably on top of things. She is super great to work with. She will do unlimited revisions for me. Even like if I want to tweak the colors slightly, like 17 times, she will do all of that for me. She is super prompt. They always do an amazing job for me, and I absolutely love working with them. 99 Designs was also kind enough to partner with me on another giveaway. Last time we did a video together, they gave away $500 worth of credits to their platform, which is insane and so awesome because that's basically a free book cover, and they are doing that again. So if you want a chance to win $500 worth of credits to 99 Designs, comment down below and use the word giveaway in your comment so that I can count them all the entries and then randomly select a winner. So the first piece of information that was taken from the survey is that people still read. The survey also broke down responses by what generation you're in, and surprisingly, 57% of the Gen Z respondents said that they read multiple times a week or daily. Yes, everybody is glued to their phones, but the idea that people just aren't reading anymore isn't true. The second piece of information that the survey revealed is, interestingly, self-publishing is losing its stigma. In 2023, 2.6 million books were self-published. Only 17% of the survey respondents preferred to buy traditionally published books. That's not that many. And 51% of those respondents said that they actively like to support self-published authors. And 31% said they can't even tell the difference. If readers can't tell and don't care, the only real difference between a self-published book and a traditionally published book is packaging and discoverability. If you can package your book the right way, make sure you have a professional editor, have a professional cover, have professional formatting, everything looks really nice, and you're able to reach your readers, yes, it can be harder to get discoverability as an indie writer, but a lot of traditionally published authors also struggle with discoverability. So if you find a way to get discoverability and be able to reach readers directly, and you have a very professional package, like you have professional formatting, a professional cover, a professional editor, your book isn't riddled with mistakes, it's very like polished and a good product, the playing field is pretty level. One interesting thing that this survey revealed was that men tend to prefer traditionally published books more than women do. 23% of men preferred to buy traditionally published books compared to an 11% of women. So if you are writing for women, this number is even more in your favor. And if you're writing for men, your packaging and credibility just matters a bit more. So according to the survey, what makes readers actually buy books? There are three things that influenced why readers buy a book the most. The first thing is the genre or the topic. 66% of respondents said that this is why they buy books. This is pretty obvious. Like, you want to read a werewolf book, you go and you buy a werewolf book. If you love werewolf books and you see a werewolf book, you're going to buy the werewolf book. 46% said personal recommendations, word of mouth. If their friend loved a book and the friend is recommending them a book, they're going to read the book. This has always been the case. And 31% said online reviews. If the book is really, really well reviewed and people are talking about it and loving it, they're more influenced to buy that book. If they go to buy the book and all the reviews are terrible, then they're probably not going to buy it. The biggest turnoffs were basically the opposites of these, like topics and genres that are not interesting. Like, if you don't like werewolf books, you're probably not going to buy the werewolf book. The second thing was pricing, which was interesting. 51% said pricing. Maybe it's a moderately interesting topic or genre, like they're kind of interested in the werewolf premise, but it's just a little too expensive and they can't justify spending $16 on a paperback for a werewolf book that they might not like. And then poor online reviews. If a book has really bad reviews, then they're probably not going to read it. This is really, really good news for indie authors. Your genre or topic is something that you can control, and if you write a high quality book, you are more likely to get good reviews. This has been true for a long time, and it's still very true today. To have a successful self-published book, you need a clear genre, so you have to have a high concept idea and understand exactly what genre you're writing in. You want to have clear branding, you want to understand who your audience is, and you want to publish a high quality book that meets people's genre expectations so that you get good reviews. So the next thing that the survey asked about is, where do readers actually discover their books? I was very interested to find out that it's not just on TikTok. The #1 place that people are still discovering their books is in bookstores. 53% of respondents said that they mostly discover books through in-store browsing. The second most common reason was friend or family recommendations at 51%. Online reviews were 37%. 40% of Gen Zers found books through social media, and 30% of millennials did. So this is super interesting because everybody talks about Book Talk like it's the end-all be-all, but it's really not. Bookstores really matter, which is not as good for indie authors, but it's not impossible. I've struggled to get my book into bookstores a lot as an indie author. It's just really hard because the way that the system works is, like, when you're traditionally published, you'll get like a print run, and like the publishing house will print a ton of the copies of the book, and it's really easy like for bookstores to stock from traditional publishers. But as an indie, the only way that you can really have your book in a database that bookstores can print it from is by publishing through Ingram Spark, which is one of the biggest print-on-demand companies. And you can upload your book into Ingram Spark and set your pricing, and Ingram will allow bookstores to purchase the book from the portal, and then bookstores can like have as many books as they want to stock printed on demand and then shipped to them. But when bookstores place orders from a print-on-demand company, they want to have wholesale discounts. So if they're buying a ton of the books, they're not going to pay your full price for every single one of those books. They want, like, usually industry standards is like a 55% discount on the title. And they also are much less likely to buy your book if you do not allow returns. So they'll like buy it at a 55% discount, try to sell their books in, like your books in the store, but if your books are not moving and if they're not selling, they're going to want to return them to you, and so you have to allow returns. And so these books have been printed for the bookstore, but the bookstore doesn't want them, so they'll return them to you, and then you're the one that has to pay for the printing costs that the book of all the copies that the bookstore had wanted. So this is not a very good thing. Like, I went on a kick where I was really trying to get bookstores to stock my book, and I was reaching out to a bunch of indie bookstores, and some of them would order them, but then if they didn't sell, then they'd return them to me, and then I would just have boxes and boxes of books show up on my doorstep, and I was getting hit with these huge printing bills, and so I was like, this is just not worth it for me. I'm losing so much money doing this, and it's not actually boosting my discoverability. And Barnes & Noble and large chain bookstores are much less likely to stock self-published books unless those books are like selling like wildfire and would help Barnes & Noble. They're only going to do it if it's going to help them. They're not going to do it if it's like they're doing a favor to you. So even though tapping into these big bookstores can be hard to do as an indie, some of the core strategies still apply, and print is still an important thing to focus on. You want to make sure that you design print books that look amazing. Especially now with social media, people love having books that are just really pretty, that they can display on their shelf, that they can take pictures of and put on their bookstagrams and put on their book talks. And there's been a newfound appreciation for just a beautiful book. So put effort into your print book. Make it as beautiful as you can. Put artwork in there and maps in there and cool things in there. Go see if you can do a signing at your local bookstore. Bring copies of the book. Don't see if the bookstore will stock it and, you know, lose a lot of money, especially when you're just starting out. But order some copies of the book and bring them to the bookstore and see if you can sell copies at the bookstore while you're doing a signing. Try to put some effort into building community so that you can have those little word of mouth engines. Like, build an ARC team, build a street team. See if you can get book clubs to feature your book. All of these things still really matter. But most of all, obviously, write the best book that you can, because if you have a book that impacts people emotionally, I know when I read a book that I like, I want to tell all of my friends about it so they can experience the same pain that I did, and then we can commiserate about it. So the next thing that the survey discovered was that there is tons of power in print. Paperback was the #1 most preferred format for people to read in. 39% said that they preferred paperback over all different formats. The next one was hardcovers at 34%. The next one was ebooks at 17%, and then audiobooks came in at 10%. There were some interesting generational breakdowns, like Gen Z really prefers hardcovers, millennials love paperbacks, boomers are least likely to read ebooks, whereas millennials and Generation X preferred ebooks more than other generations did. So if you're publishing in 2026, put effort into your paperback. It's really important. And hardcovers are kind of non-negotiable if your readership skews a little bit younger, especially if you're doing social media and book talk and things like that. The next thing that the survey discovered, and this is something that we all kind of knew already, but is extra important in 2026, is that cover design really matters. You want your cover to signal your genre and to jump out at readers. It's extra important now that your covers are bold, that they're bright, and they're eye-catching, because there are so many titles coming out here, and there are just so many things in our lives fighting for our attention. I'm gonna read one quote directly from the article that they did on all of this data, just because I think it's illustrates this point so well. A contemporary romance novel could have a bright, playful cover with illustrated characters to appeal to younger generations of readers, think Emily Henry, or it could have a moodier, more enigmatic cover to attract someone looking for a darker romantic suspense, think Colleen Hoover. There's so many visual, subtle things that you can do with your cover to select out all of the people that are gonna like your book. All of the people that are gonna like it are visually gonna kind of know that they're gonna like it, and those are the people that are gonna come to your cover, and that's what you want. You don't wanna put a bright and happy cover on a really dark book, because the people that come for the bright, happy cover are gonna be very surprised when it's a very moody, dark book. Your book could be amazing, but if your cover doesn't signal exactly what readers should expect from it, they're not gonna go and read the blurb, and they're not gonna buy the book, or the right readers aren't gonna discover it. So it's super important for you to make sure you have a good cover design. I'm not going to go into much more detail about this here because I made 2 separate videos really diving into data on this. 99 Designs also did a huge study where they pulled over 700 titles from the New York Times bestseller list and figured out what was working on covers and how covers have changed over the past 25 years. And that was really interesting because it isolated what cover design has to do this year and like what the current cover trends are. So I'm going to link those in the description of this video if you want to go watch those. I highly recommend it. It was super interesting. Like when I read all that data, it blew my mind, and it's really helping me pick a direction for the cover of my new book that I'm releasing this year. So I know that was a lot of information. Just to recap all the things we talked about, according to this survey, readers read often, including Gen Z. The self-publishing stigma is gone. Most readers actively choose to support indie authors. Discoverability is still driven by genre fit, word of mouth, and good reviews. Bookstores matter. People love print. And covers are a huge buying trigger. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope that it was helpful to you. If it was, I'd be super grateful if you could like this video and also subscribe to my channel. My name is Claire Fraze, and I'm an award-winning author who makes videos sharing actionable writing tips that helped me make my own writing better. I am the author of the 5-book paranormal thriller They Stay series, including my new book, The Love Trials, which is coming out on April 28th, and I am so excited. If you enter the giveaway, please check back next week to see if you were selected as the winner. I hope you have a good week, everyone, and as always, happy writing.